48 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary, with Kristen
and Catherine, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all of the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hey, Kristen.
Hi, Catherine. So, it is officially the last episode of the year.
True.
Merry
Wild.
/ Happy Christmas. And I guess Happy Early New Year.
Yeah, happy holidays to anyone who doesn't celebrate that Christmas, but Merry Christmas to us, because that's what we do.
Yeah. Catherine is coming to you live from
the big land.
The big land, yes. Labrador.
Yes.
So,
yep.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's freezing here. It's very, very cold here. It was like -20 and then plus the wind chill.
Oh my god,
so it was even colder
cold.
than -20.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because here we were concerned we wouldn't even have snow for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so wild. Like, we've just had snow for a couple of days.
Oh, that's good though. Was there snow on Christmas Day?
Yes, but only like a very little. Like, I'm talking like a couple of inches maybe. Nothing. Like a light dusting.
Enough to be cute.
Yeah, a little sprinkle.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was snow here. We also had a blizzard the day after we showed up, so we were glad that we showed up on the right day, or it would have been impossible to get here.
Yikes.
Fun times.
No one loves a blizzard. Although it's funny you say that, because I'm pretty sure that same day, my small child, my 7-year-old, wanted to watch the movie Blizzard.
Oh, yeah?
The movie, Whoopi Goldberg is a reindeer with hair.
I don't think I know this movie.
And everybody makes fun of her, but she has 3 out of the 3 reindeer gifts. So she can go invisible. She has like ESP. She can like hear children's thoughts who are in despair. And
that's less funny than I just laughed at.
Something else. And then she makes friends with a girl who is a really good figure skater, but then her family has to move, and she can't figure skate anymore because they're poor, and the only skating rink is like for members only.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So that was the movie. But it's just funny because
I've never seen it or heard of it.
So it's from the early 2000s, and legit Whoopi Goldberg is the voice of the reindeer, and it's just really funny.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, we watched it that same day, so oh my god.
And
maybe we caused
it's at the same time.
by watching
maybe.
Blizzard.
Yeah. Funny. So how was your Christmas?
It was good. It was low key. I don't know if it was just that we felt prepared or if we just didn't. So like, you guys, I've said it so many times, like my entire family comes and sleeps at my house on Christmas.
Mm.
But I wonder if like people just showed up a little bit later this year.
Oh yeah.
Because everyone came like right around supper time. So we ate supper, but, like, normally we have, like, time for a bunch of appetizers and stuff, so I constantly feel like I'm in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that way this year.
Oh, that's good.
Because, like, I guess my dad and my husband worked on supper, so I didn't have to be in the kitchen for that. And I guess we didn't have time for appetizers, or we didn't feel like we needed them because I didn't make any of that. We normally make French toast for the morning, but we make it the night before. So I had a head start on that and made that earlier before, like, mid-morning.
Yeah.
So,
it sounds delicious.
Yeah, it was good. But I felt like I was just maybe on top of things. And then everybody was also equally tired. So it's not like we all stayed up till, like, 3 o'clock in the morning like we do some years, drinking.
Yeah.
And carrying on. We all went to bed at like a reasonable hour.
Oh, good.
So I don't know. It just felt a little low key, which was not bad. Like, I enjoy a bit of low key. And then like we cleaned everything up by mid-afternoon yesterday, or mid-afternoon
Yeah,
yesterday for us.
Yeah.
And which was Christmas Day. And then we went to my mom's house to eat supper, so I didn't have to worry about cleanup there. So, yeah, it's just been a nice low-key...
Nice chill.
Yeah, I've been able to work on a puzzle I got for Christmas.
Nice.
Yeah, on my puzzle board. My husband gave me
That's
a puzzle
fun.
board, which is nice, yeah.
You'll have to send me a picture.
Yeah. How was yours?
Good. So, I guess it was also low-key. I don't even think we got up until like 10 or something because it's just me and Jeff here. So, and we opened our gifts here, and then his nieces came over and opened some gifts with them. And then we had some turkey dinner. Sans the turkey for me, but everything else is delicious. I love peas pudding. So yeah, it was very low-key, and I think we even had a nap after that because, you always have to have a nap after turkey dinner. Or I do. Even if I don't eat turkey, I still have the turkey nap.
You don't need no turkey fan to nap.
No, I do not. Although the bed here sucks.
I hate
because it's
that.
small. I did take my pillow, which is kind of like... It did take up some room in our luggage because we flew. But I was like, I need my pillow or I'm not going to survive. So that's been helping.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
I feel like that whenever I go visit Sid's family. And I don't know if their bed is actually uncomfortable, but it's not my bed.
Exactly.
So I'm, like, inherently not comfortable.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not your bed. That's how I feel.
So.
But it's also I don't know, it's smaller. We have a queen bed at home.
Yes.
And it's a smaller bed too, so. And they have, like, wood stoves everywhere, so it's fucking hot.
See, I would be...
And I'm like, I don't want to be this close to you.
I'd be like, yes, give me all of the heat.
No, we just open the window, and it's, like, -20 outside, but we have the window open and the heat from the stove, and it's, like, a blizzard in our room.
What? You have a reindeer in your room?
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg is in your room?
Wild.
That is wild. Anyway. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a great year.
It has. I get to do a second Christmas when I go home.
Ooh.
Because my parents will have my gifts.
Lovely. That'll be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess we're just gonna get right into it. We're gonna finish off our book.
Yeah. Our last book of the year.
So just a heads up, this is not a spoiler-free zone, and things might get saucy. Might. They won't, but it's fine.
Like a bit, but it's like cut away.
Yeah.
What is that called? Closed door.
So like we said, we're finishing off The Nightmare Before Kissmas by Sara Raasch. And we are reading chapter 17 to the very end, which I think goes to 22.
I believe so.
So last week, what even happened last week? Nick...
Well, with Christmas in between, so much is so hard to remember.
It is so hard to remember. So, like, I guess Nick and Hex get closer than they were before. They're doing all of these events together. They decide, Nick decides he wants to go behind his dad's back and try and create a winter holiday collective where they all share joy instead of these tithes that his dad has implemented. So he he uses Hex and Iris and gets them on board to help him distract some workers while he steals addresses for the winter holidays. They also go to, like, Christmas Town. It's not actually Christmas Town. It's the North Pole capital. I don't know.
But it's like...
Friggin' Christmas Town. Come on.
100% Christmas Town.
It's like being inside of a Hallmark movie.
I'm here for it.
And they, like, listen around to hear what the town and what thinks, essentially, of them as a royal family. And, like, they love Santa Claus. They love his dad. They think he could do no wrong. But essentially they also think that Nick is immature, and they sort of like him immature because it gives them something to talk about.
Yeah, and obviously they only say that shit because they don't know it's him.
Yes, 100%. So the plan is for Nick to write letters to all these winter holidays, inviting them to the ball where they can negotiate terms for this collective. Then, I guess Nick sort of, I don't know why he does it, but he decides that, like, it's time for the royal events to stop being so stuffy. So, like, he does this whole movie thing, at the birthday dinner of one of the nobles, and then he talks, he wants to make things more joyful. And he's really coming into his role as the Christmas prince, like the heir to Christmas. And he's coming into his own, and then, of course, him and Hex do the dirty. And have sex.
Yeah.
So, that's sort of the recap. This week, we start with Nick waking up to Hex. So I think they had like a week and a half left when they stole the numbers for the addresses for the collective.
Yeah, even though it doesn't make sense to any of us. No. But I'm assuming time works differently in Christmas Town.
Probably. So he wakes up, so I guess Nick and Hex like stay in the same room together like every single night. For about a week, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
And he wakes up to him every morning, and he loves the smell of, like, citrus and spice on his pillow or whatever.
Because, of course, everybody has a scent.
Yeah. It's like...
I'm like...
It's like we're talking about fairies all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just so funny. Because, like, in real life, you're like, I just smell your sweat.
Yeah.
And it doesn't smell like bergamot or fresh snow or whatever the hell else it all smells like.
Or I smell like all of the Axe body spray you put on yourself this morning.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. Anyway, so like he's waking up to Hex and he thinks about how his entire life he's tried to make his family smile and laugh. Like he's been sort of the jokester. And it's sort of been his personal way of creating joy since, I guess, like, he sort of says he knows that he's meant to create joy through Christmas one day. But, so I guess he's been trying to do his part and make joy in other ways until he makes it through Christmas. I don't know. But he just thinks about how, like, he's been making joy by making people smile. But being with Hex and waking up every morning with him for the past few days has really been the thing that creates joy in him the most.
Mm.
And because he is joyful, he is sort of spreading that joy.
Yeah, which is a bit of a mind shift from earlier in the book when he was like,
what's the point?
Don't we deserve to be happy? What's the point of everything?
Yeah.
And now he's like, I'm happy, so I need to make sure that everybody else is.
Yeah. So, he's been doing more, he's been trying to create more joy in the staff and the palace events. So, like, one day there was a scheduled concert, but he was like, why don't we go caroling instead? And before his dad could be like, I'll get the approved song list, he...
Approved songs in Christmas is also just like, what is not approved?
Yeah. Maybe Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Hilarious.
Or like Jingle Bell Rock. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I guess before his dad could go and make it, like, suck the joy out of it, he asked the nobles from the House of Carolers, because there is one, and he was like, what are some carols that you think we should sing that maybe haven't been given the recognition that they deserve? And so all the House of Carolers got together and went, and then came back with a list. So then they went around singing those carols. And they just...
Which had to be the worst ever, because no one knows them.
And, like, think about how bad most of them must be at singing.
Oh, yeah. And, like, you just have the words there. No one's playing music, I assume. You're just walking around.
Yeah.
So I just can't imagine that being fun. But I don't know. I don't love the idea of caroling either, so.
To me, caroling is weird. And,
yeah.
like, maybe...
Coming from people who have mummers, like, I understand. But we just break into people's houses and drink them out of house and home and eat all their snacks. Yeah. We don't bombard them with our voices.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, this is what I don't understand about... Like, I understand that the idea of caroling is to go around spreading joy, right? You go from door to door and you sing them a nice song and it makes people happy. However, if you're not good and you're like screeching at people with your terrible voice, what kind of joy is that creating? And also, is it not super awkward to go to strangers' houses and just stand on their stoop and sing to them? Like, to me, that is probably one of those awkward things you could do.
I think it would be more awkward to be the one answering the door, and you have to, like, you don't have a coat on, you're cold, your door is open, all the cold is coming in, and you're just looking at them and staring into their eyes, and you're like, good job! Okay. Oh, no, one more verse? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. Like, do you join in, or do you slam the door in their face?
Like, okay, bye.
Did you guys want a beer? Like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. So, I guess we're from Newfoundland that has a tradition called mummering, where you dress up in the most ridiculous outfit on the planet. We're talking like you put a sheet over your head, and not like a white sheet like a ghost. Like, you put patterned sheet over your head, cut out the holes so you can see. You put on, like, a winter hat, you put on layers of clothing, all mismatched, put bra and underwear over top. Go out, you knock on doors, you bring, like, an ugly stick and, like, instruments.
Yeah.
And you just knock on random people's doors and say, any mummers allowed in. And then they might let you in. And then they feed you and give you a drink, and you play them some music and have a little party in their kitchen, and then you leave again and go to the next house. So, like, equally weird, but also...
It is, when you explain it.
Probably more weird.
Because you're actually going into their homes.
Yeah, into their kitchen, and they don't know who you are because your face is all covered up.
They're trying to guess, but... Yeah.
There's a whole song about it.
There is. Love it. Any mummers loud in?
The mummer song. So, you know, if you want...
Granny would say...
Yeah.
We won't sing it to you because we're not going to carol.
No, we're not carolers. Unlike this noble family. But, I don't know. To me, it's less awkward than caroling. Because you're coming in to drink.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's not... Yeah. Because, like, I don't know. And this might be bad to say. Which is not great because we're not editing this episode. But... anytime I've seen caroling, only been media, obviously. Yeah. Like, I've never actually seen it in real life. But it always seems like...
It's how it's portrayed.
Yeah, it always seems like they're doing charity by going around to carol. Yeah. And I'm like, it's very much self-righteous, it seems like.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know what caroling is actually like, obviously, because we don't...
Yeah, it's not really something that happens here very often.
It's only media, and it very much seems like, oh, we're gonna go do good, and I'm like... Although, I guess I have gone, like, singing in, like, old age homes and stuff, and, that is nice to do, so maybe it's that kind of... I don't know. I guess.
Yeah.
It baffles me.
It baffles me, too. Anyway, so all of the nobles go around caroling to the various, like, offices that exist in the palace, like the different, sectors or departments.
Departments, yeah.
And Nick actually said, or Cole said, that he has never seen the nobles interact with the staff like that before. And then there's another event where it was cookie decorating, and it was only supposed to be the nobles, but Nick went around and invited all the staff. So it ended up being this, like, messy disaster. People were, like, shoving their way into the sprinkles. But then they sent the cookies out to the people of Christmas Town for some pre-Christmas joy. So, like, he's really trying to make them a part of Christmas, not separate from Christmas, almost, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can see, like, this is how Christmas would be if he was in charge. Yeah. So much better.
He also asks Ren why they don't have decorations signifying all of the houses. So, like, there are visiting nobles from every house, but the only decorations are from, I guess, Santa's house. So he's like, why don't we have, like, the traditions from the other families?
Yeah, I'd like to understand all this noble stuff more, because, like, can Santa come from a different noble house? Did they come because, like, their parents came from, not their parents, their mother came from House Frost, and they're good at, like, skating and shit. So is there just, like, a House Claus?
I would say.
That's where Santa comes from? Say. Yeah. Fair.
Anyway, so, like, I guess when he asked Ren about decorations, she was like, say no more, and the very next day she had decorations up from other houses. And so, like, I guess last week's episode, he says that he purposely doesn't look at the tabloids, but he's started to look, and he says that they're reporting on all of the events that he's sort of been changing, and he said the photos aren't as staged anymore, but, like, they are really genuine, so he's looking at them and being like, this is genuine. Like, they're more candid, but they're also more genuine. And apparently the public is, like, eating it up.
Fair.
So Nick starts getting answers from the holidays that they will come to the ball, his wedding, to negotiate.
Yeah.
But they are all asking if the current Santa is going to be involved in the negotiations. And he's concerned because he sort of thought his dad would, like, catch on by now. And he's worried that, like, shit is gonna hit the fan. But he's also...
Obviously it is.
Like, obviously. But he's also really proud of what he's done. I'm actually really surprised that he's gotten as many, like, yeah, we'll come as he has. Because, like, imagine, like, knowing somebody is in charge and then getting a letter from somebody who's not in charge and being like, hey, come. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I'd be a lot more skeptical.
Yeah.
So.
That's fair.
Anyway, so right now, they're at this, like, outdoor mingling event, and his dad is not present, which makes Nick a bit nervous. He says there's, like, just something, like, niggling at him.
Fair.
He's also, like, getting really used to hiding his relationship with Hex in public.
I'm sure they're doing a great job.
Like, staring at each other's eyes from across the way, I'm sure is really helping them. So, like, he's talking to his brother about something, and he asks him for help. He says, hey, I need your help with something. And then he sees Hex, and he zones out. And he's like, he's just drooling over Hex, and, like, marveling at how much he's in love with him. And then Kris is like, hello! And he zones back in, and Kris is like, what do you want? And he says he wants him to help him write his speech for the holidays, like, when they come. Essentially, he knows they have to apologize a lot. Like, he knows that they have to apologize for taking tithes from them for so long. but he also wants to discuss how they can help plant seeds of joy all over the world. So he wants to grovel and also suck up to them.
Yeah.
But, like, whatever he says or how really impresses Kris, who jokes that, like, he should be Santa now. And Nick's like, ha 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 ha.
Like, what are you trying to do if not actually become Santa?
I don't really get it.
Yeah.
So everybody goes in, and Nick walks next to Hex, and they see Iris link arms with Kris, and it brings up between Nick and Hex how Kris feels about Iris and how she doesn't know. And Hex is like, you haven't told her, he hasn't told her. And Nick's just like, no, it's not my secret to tell and all this stuff. But Hex just sort of boils it down to the reason he hasn't told her is because they're worried that she wouldn't feel the same.
Yeah, like she has to know. You'd have to.
Yeah. I can't, I feel like she's just being one of those nice people of like, yeah, hi, what? A crush on me? No.
No way.
Just because she's trying to be a nice person.
Yeah.
So, Hex sort of, I guess, in this discussion that they're having, displays that he is worried about them for after he leaves. So, Christmas is in 3 days. So that's how much time they have left. But, like, Nick is trying to be reassuring and be like, oh, like, don't worry. I'm with you. I'll have to visit you. He's trying to put a positive spin on it, even though Hex is sort of like, I don't know. So, all of a sudden, they're almost at Hex's room, I think. And they hear something crash around the corner, and then Iris comes, like, running panicked down the hall, which I feel like we never get a resolution to.
I think, what do you mean? Iris is...
Like, I don't know, I just feel like Iris was very upset, and then it's never sort of mentioned again.
But I think she's upset because of...
what's about to happen. I know, but nobody, like, checks in with Iris.
Yeah, it's not her thing to be upset about.
I guess.
She's not gonna be fucked over if anything happens. Well,
I guess. So, Nick just tells Hex that he'll meet him at his room after. And he goes to investigate. Turns out his dad found the RSVPs in his room from the holidays, and he is pissed. So he gets to his room, and the entire thing has been tossed. His dad is, like, really mad. So they literally tossed his room apart to find his stuff, to find these letters. So Santa wants to talk to Nick alone, so tries to dismiss Kris. But Kris is like, no, I'm not leaving. And his dad is obviously disappointed in Kris. Or because he's like, he's refusing to leave. But then he turns it to Nick and expresses that he's been very disappointed in him too. Because he sort of thought that Nick was changing this whole time.
Which... he is.
Yeah, he is changing. But he sort of was like, I thought you had this renewed sense of purpose. And, like, I haven't opened my mouth about the changes that you've made because, like, you're right, our approval rating is actually increasing. So I've let you go on with your little changes.
And all he cares about is the approval rating.
So Nick is like, okay, now's the time. I'll be able to convince him that his way is not necessarily the right way. And he just tries to tell his dad that, like, they can't control everything and they can't control everyone. And that it's cruel to do what they're doing by trying to, like, take over everything. And he says that they should work together with the other holidays to spread more meaningful joy instead of controlling the other holidays and using that joy to just spread yourselves I don't want to say too thin, because, like, it's giving them more power, but as we read earlier, it's cheapening the holiday.
Yeah.
So I guess Nick's argument is that we shouldn't be cheapening the holiday. We should be making it more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess him saying that they should work with the other holidays to make more meaningful joy clues his dad in that he got the idea from Hex. And his dad goes ballistic and says that it's all Hex's fault and that he's been manipulating Nick. And he's like, wait till his collective hears about this. And then all of a sudden, Kris jumps in and he's defending Nick. And I'm calling him Santa, even though it's weird.
That's fair.
He's calling...
Santa's a dick.
Santa is a dick in this book. He's calling Nick down to the dirt, saying that he's, like, irresponsible and unworthy of their family name. And, like, it's really ugly. Mm-hmm. But Kris, like, finally just explodes and tells his dad to shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I don't really understand what happens here. Like, it causes them to fight. But I don't know if there's, like, a little bit of a struggle or something, but his dad raises his hand to either punch or slap Kris. But then all of a sudden Kris falls and he's on the ground.
Yeah, so I read it as, like, there was no real struggle, but he put his hand up like he was going to hit Kris, and Nick pushed Kris out of the way.
Right, so that's how he falls.
Yeah, to get him, because he's, like, that's what he does, he protects his brother.
So this is the thing, so Nick obviously steps in between them and holds his hands up. And he just folds immediately. He tells his dad he'll rescind the invitations. He'll send letters to all the holidays telling them not to come. That he'll stop everything if his dad just stops. And I guess him having his hands up, he's got the skull ring on his finger. And Santa Claus sees it. And he understands what's happening between Nick and Hex. And he just tells Nick that he will marry Iris in 3 days. And then he just radios Ren that the Halloween prince needs to pack and go immediately. That he's no longer welcome. And then he just steps around the boys and he leaves. So, like, it was an ugly fight, but it was also very quick.
Yeah. And it's also, like, just the thought of Santa hitting one of his kids is, like, a wild turn.
Yeah, it's definitely not what we think of when we think of Santa. So, after his dad leaves, like, Nick is in shock because he's like, shit, this fight almost got Kris hurt. And shit, Hex's reputation is in danger. Because, again, earlier in the fight, his dad was like, what's his collective gonna think about this?
Mm-hmm.
So, he's spiraling in self-hatred right now, because he's like, these are my loved ones, and everything that I've done right now is putting them at risk. And even when I try and fix things, I fuck it all up because I'm a screw up and, like, all this is my fault. And he's just doing that same old. Mm-hmm. You know, that thing that people really like to do in books.
Yeah.
So, Kris obviously texts Iris, who comes right away. And she asks him, like, do you want to talk about it? But he's like, no, I have to go. And he just leaves. And we don't know at that point where he's going, but the assumption is he's going to see Hex.
Yeah. Because he loves him.
So he goes to Hex's room just as Ren is about to knock on his door. And Nick sort of begs her to let him tell Hex that he has to leave. And she then tells Nick that they are proud of him. And he's initially like, what do you mean by, like, they?
Fair.
And she just says, like, oh, me and the staff. And apparently seeing him come into his own has been something that they've all been hoping for. Like, the whole staff. So, like, she just sort of insinuates that they're not as oblivious to things as he might believe. And essentially, she's saying, we're all on your side. We're on your team.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm sure a lot of them have been around since he's been a small child. So, I'm sure a lot of these people have watched him grow up. So, like, of course they would be Team Nick.
Yeah.
So then she tells Nick that, like, they've all seen how the reigning Santa has changed. And what he wants to do for Christmas. Like, they sort of get it, what he's trying to do. And she knows it's a burden for Nick, but essentially the staff are all behind him and support him. So, she's just like, we know everything, and we would rather have you. Is essentially what this conversation is insinuating. So he's like, okay, thanks, and then he goes into Hex's room, and he just tells him that his dad found out about their plan, because the reason he found out is because the holidays were making accommodation plans, or, like, arrangements to come, and people told him about, I guess the people helping make those arrangements told him about it.
Which, like, if they were smarter and less in their 20s, they would have realized that, like, obviously these people aren't just going to show up without, like, figuring out how to travel there.
Yeah. But they are in their 20s, so they don't know anything.
Yeah. So Santa found out. Santa sees everything.
He knows when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake.
And he knows when you're planning to travel to Christmas Town.
And overthrow him. So, like, Hex tries to make it better and say, he's just like, we always knew this was a possibility. But Nick just tells Hex that his dad threatened to pin it all on Hex. And he's sending Hex home. And Hex is like, what did you say to your dad? So, like, I guess Nick is just like, this is what my dad did. And he was like, if I don't rescind the letters, this is what he's gonna do. And Hex is like, okay, so what did you say to him? Like, what are you gonna do? And he starts to back up, because when Nick first came in and was like, my dad just found out about everything, Hex gets really in his space and is like, oh my god, it's okay. He's trying to be comforting. But then when Cole starts to say this bit, he backs up. He's putting distance between them. And Cole just says, like, his dad would have gone to Hex's collective. He's like, he would have gone to your collective. He would have told them that you were trying to overthrow Christmas, and, like, you would have gotten it kicked out of your collective, and that would have been all my fault, and, like, getting you involved in this was all my fault, and blah, blah, blah. And Hex is like, you're rescinding the invitations. He just knew. And Cole's just like, I agreed to protect you, and I'm not going to let my father touch you. And Hex is like, protecting Halloween is my job. Like, you worry about your own holiday.
Yeah, because this is what he's been saying the entire book.
He's literally been saying, don't choose me over your holiday.
Yeah.
And that's it. He's saying, do not choose him over your responsibilities. And then he starts freaking out. He's like, essentially says that it's my fault your father had something to pin on Halloween anyway. So then he tells Cole that his sister is the one who wanted to reach out to Christmas. and that she was idealistic and thought that maybe they could pool resources to help each other because they covered different parts of the year. So she wanted...
Which makes sense.
Yeah, she wanted to make this partnership, and I guess Christmas did not. So the negotiations went bad, and then his sister died literally days after.
Yeah.
So Hex was sort of worried that her legacy would be tarnished with like this deal gone bad.
Yeah.
So I guess right after the negotiations, Santa came forward with the blackmail like right away. And his parents were like, yeah, let's deal with it. Like, you want to release that, go ahead. But Hex was like, no, we can't. I don't want him saying anything about Raven. Like, being in charge of this because she failed. And he was just very worried about his sister's reputation being tarnished after her death.
Yeah.
He even says that, like, so much so that, like, I'm the one who agreed to this fake engagement thing. Like, that was all me. And Hex then asked Cole, he's like, don't give up on your idea. Let me take responsibility for my own holiday. Like, please don't choose me over everything else. But Cole just says, like, no, I don't want him to hurt you. Or he actually says, I won't let my father hurt the man I love.
Right.
Which is an odd way to tell someone you love them.
Yeah.
For the first time.
For the first time.
And then he just says it a few more times, as if the first time wasn't enough.
Yeah, like, you can't just love bomb and overwhelm someone.
Yes! Which, in all fairness, it does seem like he's love bombing him a little bit. Because he says it several times, and then he says it again at the very end of my section a little bit, too. So he reaffirms, like, Hex's reaction is just like, you can't love me. And
I'm unlovable.
But he's like, I'm going back to Mexico. Like...
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
And he was like, we're both heirs of our own holidays. Like, there's no real way for us to be together.
We're fighting over marrying Iris.
Yeah.
In quotes.
And, like, Cole's upset because he's learning now that Hex didn't really see a future for them. And he was like, this is just a fling, or, like... It's hilarious because in the book they use the word dalliance. And I'm like, I don't think any 20-something-year-old in this time period would use the word dalliance to describe hooking up with someone.
No.
Right? Like, fling, maybe. Dalliance, absolutely not.
No.
But essentially he's like, oh, so this was just a fling, like, this wasn't anything for you except a fling. Like, he's just learning that Hex never saw a future for them. And he's right. Like, Hex really only sees that in his brain, eventually, one of them will choose their responsibilities over the other. And Hex says that he has to think of Halloween's future. And I guess that comment makes Cole think that he's unworthy of being connected to Halloween. Because he's like, you know, Christmas's screw-up almost. So I guess he's projecting Hex saying he needs to think about his holiday first. He's taking that to be like, as in, I'm not enough. And then Cole gets mad that Hex isn't fighting for them. But Hex just says, like, it's not that I'm not fighting for us, it's just I have to leave. And if I'm leaving, I need you to be happy. And Hex also says that, like, he's really only cared about Halloween since Raven died. But now he only thinks about Cole and him being happy. So he reiterates, like, I really need you to be happy and taken care of so that I can, like, live in peace in my holiday in Mexico. And he just begs him not to give up on the collective. So essentially he's
Yeah.
like, betray me, let me deal with my own mess. Not really a betrayal, but let me deal with my own mess that I've made. Don't give up on this collective.
Yeah.
So Cole asks / tells Hex. He's like, I know you love me. And we won't be happy without each other. And he's like, tell me you love me. And it's like, that is not appropriate. You don't get to demand someone tell you how you feel.
Yeah, no.
But then Hex is like coming right back to him, and he doesn't say he loves him, but he says, but like Cole is like, tell me you love me. And Hex is like, tell me you won't give up on the collective. And Cole just tells Hex that he cares about his own joy. He was like, that's why I didn't think about the future of my holiday when my dad was threatening you. Like, I was only thinking about my future with you. And then I guess he gets upset because, like, obviously I was silly because you were not thinking the same thing. So he is really hurt at this whole Hex, like, choosing his, like, Hex, I guess, is choosing his holiday over him. It's not really how I see it, but...
But he's barely, because he's like, oh, screw my holiday. We'll figure it out. Like, he's like, you choose your holiday over me. He's not even choosing his...
Yes. You know?
I guess he is also choosing his holiday because he's like, we can't be together. But that's like the Romeo and Juliet of this story.
Yeah, I guess I do think that this bit is a little bit weak. Right? Like,
yeah.
This whole it's not even really an argument, but this whole, like, I guess, like, it's driving the plot, so we need a conflict between them to drive a wedge. But, like, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, the, know, just the idea that Cole is upset at Hex for not thinking they have a future.
Yeah. And Hex is just like, I'm pissed because I told you all along not to choose me over your holiday. Yeah. I feel like if they had a tiny bit of a longer conversation, they could have just figured it out.
Yeah. So, I guess after Cole just says, I was really silly for choosing you when you were not. I don't think he's like, you didn't choose me. I think he thinks that you would not have chosen me, is what's hurtful. Yeah. So he tells Hex, he's like, you can leave now. And then he just runs out. And Hex is actually, like, doesn't want him to go. He's hurt. He's calling out to him. And he doesn't want to leave with Cole being mad at him, but Cole just runs out anyway. Mm-hmm. And he runs back to his room, not realizing that Kris and Iris are still there. Like, he left them in his room and they didn't leave. Yeah, awkward. A little bit awkward. But I guess because they're there, he feels like he can just fall apart. So he does.
Yeah.
So he wakes up the next morning and he feels this, like, weight. Like, it's funny. It's one of those things where he has a moment where he forgets what happens because he's like, oh, I only have 2 more days with Hex. And then he sort of has this, so he realizes, he feels this weight on his thumb and realizes it's Hex's ring that he didn't give back. And then everything comes crashing back that Hex is gone. Mm-hmm. And Kris is there and he refuses to leave. He knows that Cole is suffering and he doesn't want to leave him alone. Sweet. Yeah, it is sweet.
But I guess it's kind of what we got before in that, like, Kris is always just, like, taking care of Cole because he's afraid he's going to leave them.
Yeah. But I guess Cole then feels bad because he doesn't want his brother to have to take care of him anymore. And then Kris tells him that he is not a burden. And for some reason, Cole really needed to hear that. Like, he has felt like a burden on his brother for so long that hearing that really helped him, and it really made a difference.
Yeah.
But Kris is still pissed that Cole sort of stepped in and took his place when his dad almost hit him. And he's like, don't do that again. Like, I can handle it. You don't do that. But it's just sort of demonstrating Cole's, you know, his protective
Yeah,
nature.
He's not completely useless.
Yeah. So Iris brings breakfast, and she says, oh, look, Renee gave you extra cinnamon syrup because she knows about everything. So, like, everybody knows.
Like, great. This is what I was hoping for.
And it was announced by the press, or by the palace respondents this morning, that Iris chose Christmas, and their plans are moving forward, and that's why the Prince of Halloween is no longer in residence.
Moving forward being they're getting married in 2 days. She chose him, and they're getting married 2 days later.
So Cole's just sort of like, I don't know what to do now. And he feels hopeless, but at the same time he knows, well, I guess I should get to work rescinding those invitations. Mm-hmm. And Kris is like, well, I can write the letters, but Cole's like, no, it's fine, I'll do it. And something clicks in his brain at that point. And it's just so stupid.
Yeah.
He's like, shit, my dad has been threatening us to blame Halloween and threatened to hit Kris, but like he hasn't actually followed through with any of it. He's just been threatening, and we've been complying because we don't want anyone to get hurt.
Figuratively or literally.
And then he remembers how the staff and the people of the city really love his dad and the image that he's created, and he realizes that his dad can't make good on any of his threats without ruining his image. Like, if he publicly claims some of the things he's threatened, then everyone will be like, well, how do you know that? And it would turn eyes on him.
Yeah. That's the nature of blackmail. You're not going to come out of it looking great for blackmailing people.
And he tells Kris then that his dad has been bluffing the entire time. And he's like, we're not going to rescind those invites. And if their dad does anything, I'll protect you. But he's not going to. He won't do anything. So, like, in just a split second, he's like, wait! All of that was a bluff.
Hold up. Yeah.
So, then Cole says to Iris, he's like, I know that we're about to get married, but I can't. And he just says, like, I want to help you so that there's no blowback on you. I'll do whatever you need me to do. But he was like, but we can't get married. Yeah.
Fair. Really.
And Iris is like, I'm with you no matter what. I don't care about the blowback. I don't care what my court have to say. It's fine. Which is a little moment for her because she's been very much trying to please her court. And this is sort of her fuck you moment.
Yeah.
So she tells him, she's like, oh, maybe you should tell Hex about this change of mind and that you're going to go ahead with the collective. But he's like, no, I don't want to. And he's like, because he broke my heart. Broke it. Because Hex did not choose Cole, even though Cole chose him.
Yeah.
And he says, Hex was correct, though. That, like, there was the first sign of a threat, he backed off. And he's like, I didn't think about the holiday. All I thought about was Kris and Iris and Hex. Like, he wasn't thinking of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't had to commit to his holiday yet. So he's been backing off. So he says, I finally want to, like, do right by Christmas and commit and try and keep the joy going. And he's thinking to himself that maybe sometimes he'll make a mistake. But it's about being strong and persevering.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important bit. So then we get a typed text to Hex asking not to respond.
Of course, that's how you always text your exes. Yeah.
But he just tells him he was right. But he says, I was right too. But he just says, I'm going to try and be better than my dad and be the best version of myself because that's what you deserve. And then he just repeats that he loves him several times. He says, I love you, I love you, I love you. He says, even though you didn't say it back, I do love you. But
it's the 3 times though. It's like the Pride and Prejudice. I love you. I love you. I love you most ardently.
I love you.
Yeah.
I never wish to be parted from you from this day on. Ah, I love it.
Me too.
But then it says in, like, square brackets, delete without sending yes. So he wrote out this note to Hex, but then he did not send it.
Good. That's what you're supposed to do. Never text your ex.
Yeah. Terrible idea.
Yeah. So Kris and Cole are on their way to their dad's office later, and they know he wants to see them and read the letters that they sent to rescind the invitation. And Cole is just like, this is going to go poorly because obviously they didn't write them. But Kris is like, no, we decided that it's going to go well, so it will. I'm like, glad that you have faith.
It was very much like the positive thinking wins out all the time. It's like, we think it'll go well, so it will, regardless of
what actual Santa says.
I don't know. It's weird.
But Cole kind of knows, like, everything is in his dad's control. And he's just hoping that he's right about the blackmail. He's like, hopefully he won't tell everybody all the blackmail shit. We'll call him on his bluff. He obviously is thinking about how much he misses Hex, and he loves Christmas, and, like, both of that is destroying him. It's, like, not a great time for him. His dad asks for the letters, but Cole's just like, I don't have them. And it's like he's making a stand almost. And then Kris is like, oh, I'm still helping with them. And then Ren just pops in and gives him an invoice to sign and asks what this is about. And Santa's like, it's not her concern. Oh, but she's like, oh, you mean the letters that were supposed to be sent out? And he's like confused, but she's like, don't worry, I reviewed them and sent them out. And he's like, huh, that makes sense, I guess. She does everything, so I guess I would ask her to do this.
Yeah.
She says they basically went out. Yeah. She says they went out yesterday and everything was in order. And Cole's just like, yeah, she looked them over. Everything's good. And, like, they just go to leave. So they kind of, like, they just go outside, and Ren comes out after them, and they just, like, have a full-blown conversation right outside of Santa's door, and I'm like, you could have moved somewhere further away.
Yeah. I know. He can hear you.
He can hear you when you're sleeping.
Or when you're awake.
But exactly. So Ren tells them outside, she's like, I told you you're not as alone as you think. And Cole asks why, and Ren says, like, they're aware that their father, because Kris and Cole are both there, she basically asks if they know that he wanted to send an invitation to the wedding to their mother. And Cole is like, what the fuck? And he didn't even really think it was a possibility, but he also didn't think of, like, inviting anybody he cares about because it's, like, not his actual wedding, and they've also decided they're not going ahead with it anyway.
Yeah,
and he just thinks...
sham.
Exactly. But he just thinks, like, he knows his mother wouldn't actually show up anyway because she'd want to hold it over them that, like, she was invited, but she just didn't go because she knew they didn't want her there. Anyway, she sounds like a narcissist.
Yeah, but I think we already established that.
Yeah. But Kris is, like, motionless and in shock. And Cole is like, wait, did you know? And Kris is like, no, I haven't spoken to her since that, like, selfie debacle where she sent, like, a thirst trap to her kids. But he does say, like, she texted him yesterday, and they're like, well, is she coming? And Ren is just like, no, sadly, with all of the prep for the wedding and everything with Christmas, her invitation got lost. And they're like, oh, she knew better and didn't send it out, which is good.
I like Ren.
But she says,
Ren
like,
more and more.
Me too. She does say, like, if their mother did text about the wedding, it's because, like, it's in the holiday tabloid. She still sees those somehow, so, like, she found out that way. And she says that she kind of goes into, like, her big spiel here, and she says it's hard to make room for grief in a holiday focused on joy, and their father is less the leader he used to be, and he thinks if he makes Christmas bigger and better, their mother will come back. And Cole's just like, what the fuck? I kind of like being in his head, because he's just like, this never was a thought to him.
I don't understand why not.
I know. But he's just like, oh, in his head, he's like, he just thought that, like, his father just got more bitter. Not that he was doing this for her. So Cole asks Ren then if she knew what his dad was doing to the other holidays. And she just says, like, it isn't her job to influence Santa. Like, she can give her opinion, but she's not actually, like, she's not really allowed to have one if he's not asking for it. But she says, hypothetically, if she did have an opinion, it would be that no holiday should harm another. So that's why she's on their side. Kris then wonders if they should be mad that she excluded their mother. Like, she leaves, and then he's like to Cole, he's like, should we be mad that she didn't even ask our mother without asking us? But Cole's just like, no. But it makes him realize that, like, Kris is kind of hopeful that their mother will come back too, which is just something he's never thought was a possibility. And he's kind of just glad that she didn't take up mental space for them. And then he thinks, like, love destroyed their father, and that's what's currently destroying him, and that's why he's trying to make Christmas perfect.
Oh, because of love.
Everything is because of love.
Not the solution.
So they walk away together, and then Kris is just like, ball tag, and just hits him
in the nuts.
Junk. Yeah.
In the chest.
Like,
in the
adults.
Chestnuts.
So the next day, Cole thinks to himself he has no plans to marry Iris, but he does get dressed. And he's wearing, like, a blue blazer and red pants and, like, body glitter. And I'm like, this sounds awful.
Yes, for a wedding?
Like,
absolutely.
But he feels hot, but I'm like, I think you look awful. I don't know what it actually looks like. I need some fanfic. But we get that it's actually Nutcracker themed, the wedding, is the issue here. So I guess they get to where the wedding is, and there's, like, a couple of Easter people there, and then there's some people from Valentine's, but, like, Lily's not there, the bride's sister, because they're like, that would be bad press. And there's reporters. Yeah. There's reporters all around the room, and then, like, it's mostly the Christmas nobles, but then the holidays he invited are, like, off to the side. Which is just funny, because they walk in, and his dad is already there, and he hasn't confronted anyone, but he's just like, what the fuck, as soon as Cole walks in. And he basically pulls him to the side room, and Kris goes to see all the other, like, winter representative holidays. But Cole and Santa, I guess, are in a side room, and Cole tells him that he won't back down on this, and, like, the holidays can all grow together. And his dad is just like, you're going back to Yale tomorrow morning, first thing. And it's like, that's Christmas Day. You're sending him back to school on Christmas Day. So what, he's just going to
hang out at Yale for, like, 3 weeks by himself?
Yeah.
Lame.
It's like Harry Potter.
Yes.
During the Christmas, yeah. But he's also like, you're stripped of your responsibilities. You're going to marry Iris tonight, and then you're going to be gone. And he's like, you're done. There's nothing left for you here. And Cole's just like, no, I'm not marrying Iris, and I'm not going to grad school. So he's like finally standing up for himself. And his dad says he thought he cared about the Halloween prince, because obviously he's bringing up that he's going to blame him for everything. But Cole says, like, he does. But he tells his dad to go ahead and see how his people love him when they realize he's been blackmailing everybody. Like, this is his
ace in the hole
card. Yeah, exactly. And Cole tells him he won't let him ruin Christmas, and, like, won't let him ruin Christmas trying to get their mother back. And he's going to protect Christmas. Kris just shows up with all the winter holidays. And you're like, this was a private conversation, but okay. But Cole then has to give his speech, which, like, his brother was helping him write, but now it's just on the fly. Like, cool. But he basically is just like, your tithes give Christmas over half of its joy, and that ends now with, like, no issues all around, and we're all going to work together and use all of our resources to make us all grow together. And they're going to meet and discuss a new collective over the next few days. So it's like kind of figuring it out, but there's going to be a lot of work from here. Which we don't get, which I'm not upset about.
And I do think that, like, it's an interesting way to leave off. Like, we're not, like, it's going to be a happy ending, but it's not a perfect ending. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't give us an epilogue where, like, Nick took
5 years later, he's Santa.
Yeah, and, like, the collective is going great. He did a great job. In 1 week, he convinced everybody.
Yeah, because it seems a bit too easy, almost. So, yeah. He turns to talk to his father then and says, like, they're going to go back to what Christmas was, joy in the darkness, and his dad just looks at him, and I guess nobody else can hear them, I hope, because his dad's just like, I wouldn't have hit you or your brother, but you guys thought that I would have. And, like, it's kind of almost like a reckoning for him that, like, they actually thought he would hit them.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't be such a dick.
Exactly. But it's just like, you can't just say this in front of a bunch of other holidays.
Well, I guess they're too old for, like,
child services to come and take them away. Yeah. Cole says then that, like, grief changed his father, but it doesn't have to just, like, change you in a bad way. Joy can come from grief, too. And every part of the world deserves joy, but it doesn't just have to be, like, Christmas is joy. It can also be these other holidays. And he's like, this is what him and Kris want their future to be. Because, like, his dad's always like, I'm building this for you guys. And he's like, no, this is what we want. So he leaves. And I'm like, presumably to go give out toys all across the world. Which is just, like, wild. They're like, he's just going to go do his job while his kids undermine him. So he takes Iris's hand there, and he says he loves her, and he asks her to do him the honor of not marrying him. And she agrees. And they're just like, what are we going to do? And she just, like, whispers to a staff member that they're not getting married, and the staff member just announces it. And it's just very easy. And I'm like, there has to be something that comes up from this, too.
Not something.
I guess that's why there's a second book.
I guess.
But yeah, we don't get it this book, like you said. It's not a perfect ending. she then tells Cole that they're allowed to have their own dreams now, too. And he starts to think about Hex, obviously, and he wonders if Hex would be proud of him. And then he's like, I'm so tired, I'm going to just go to bed. But Iris basically forces him to the dance floor. And Ren starts setting up meetings with the other holidays. And then Iris says she was going to go see him, and Kris wanted to tell him off, but he showed up this morning, and he chose Cole. And then Cole looks over, and he sees Hex next to Kris, and it's like this big moment. So Cole walks over to him through the dancers, and Hex is in like a bright red suit, which is cute, and a black shirt, because Halloween, black. But Hex then tells him that, like, originally when he met him, he went to the bar on the anniversary of Raven's death because he wanted to meet Cole. And he says he wanted to reassure himself that it wouldn't have mattered who was in charge, like who Santa was. His sister never would have gotten what she wanted. And so he was trying to, like, meet Cole and be like, you're a piece of shit. And then he wasn't.
Yeah, he wanted assurance that he was just as big a douche as his dad was.
Yeah. And then he says he was so angry, but then, like, he actually started to fall for Cole immediately. But he couldn't accept it. And he actually says it stuns him to be, like, Cole's focus. And he's sorry he didn't trust himself to choose him. And, like, he's apologizing for the way everything went. Cole stops him and says he would never make him choose between him and his role. And, like, it's actually one of the things he loves the most about Hex is his big heart and his purpose. And Hex tells him he's going to learn to fight for the man he loves. And this is, like, him telling him that he loves Cole. Hex saying the L word.
This is the only confusing when I'm typing stuff down. And I have to say, he tells him he loves him. And I'm like, wait, who told who loved who?
Yeah. He tells him he loves Cole. And I'm like, that's not a sentence that makes sense. But yeah. Obviously, there are still reporters all around the room, which is, great. So Cole is kind of, like, staying a bit far away because he's like, we can't be in front of the reporters. But Hex is like, kiss me. And Cole's like, but what about your collective? What will they think? And Hex is like, we'll deal with it together. And then they kiss. And Cole, like, lifts him up to kiss him, which is just kind of cute. And, like, they take a bunch of, like, obviously the reporters are taking a bunch of pictures. And then Cole is like, dance with me. And Hex is like, you'll need to put me down so that I can dance with you. Because he's still got him in his arms. It is. And they each say that they love each other, like, finally, without it being like, the man I love or whatever. And Cole is just so filled with joy. And he's thinking, like, joy creates magic, and he's super happy in this moment because, they're together. And again, I'm like, Santa's just out bringing around gifts, and, like, they're all still undermining him and doing all this shit he doesn't like, but he's the one that's doing it all because Cole hasn't taken over every role of Santa right now. And I just, like, I can't imagine how his dad is still doing his Santa role, being like, my kids fucked me over.
Yeah, like how he can put on a straight face, you mean?
Yeah, I'm like, is he being a good Santa, or is he just, like, throwing shit wherever? Like, is he giving people... I don't know. It just seems wild.
It also seems wild to me that, and maybe, okay, I had this thought earlier. So, like, do we not think that Santa needs a full 24 hours and that he works with the sun, right?
That's what I assumed.
Is this happening on the 24th or the 23rd?
Oh, yeah. Well, and also, I feel like their days are longer anyway, and they have extra days, so I don't know.
And on top of that, coming from a purely sloth-like tendency, in my brain, I don't understand how the dad can have a ball and then be like, all right, I'm off to deliver presents for 24 hours without sleep. Goodbye.
Santa's just lit. He's just drunk the whole time.
For like 36 hours straight, at least. And I'm just like, how?
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Is the party happening overnight so that he can get started as soon as it turns the 24th?
Yeah. I really, logistics are an issue.
Logistics are an issue.
But they never do bring up that Santa is actually, like, gone Santaing.
Yes. It's like, okay, peace out. Like, I'm going to have a wedding and then I'm going to leave. Like, how mentally exhausted would you be? And physically exhausted from just dealing with all of that.
Oh, 100%. Yes. Yeah. So, Hex and Cole just dance for, like, 2 songs, and then they're just, like, so handsy that Hex just magics them to Cole's room, and Cole's just like, wait a second, like, do you realize you just portaled us here while people were watching? Like, that wasn't the best move. And Hex is just like, oops, my bad. So, they kiss, and Hex is just like, to Cole, that he's so good at going slow and making him feel loved, but he asks him if he'll go slow later. And he says, don't let what happens next undercut what I say. And he says, we can go slow later, but right now he needs Cole to fuck him. But then a ghost decoration just appears out of thin air, which is my favorite thing about this book. Cole is just like shocked by both things that happened. And then they kind of have a tender moment first. And Hex says he's feeling a bit off today. And Cole holds him and comforts him. And Hex says he, like, didn't know if he'd see Cole again. And he missed him so much. And Hex asks, like, what he's done to him. And Cole says nothing yet. And they kind of get sexy again. So Hex pushes him against the wall and, like, drops to his knees. And Cole says this isn't what he asked for. But Hex says he hasn't gotten to taste him yet. And this is him getting them back to a place where Cole can do what he wants him to. Because if they go to bed now, he knows that Cole will just worship him instead of...
take over. And
yeah. And he wants Cole to ravage him first, So Hex goes down on him and does a thing with his tongue and hums, and then he asks Cole to grab his hair, and it's so good that he has to, like, push him away almost immediately. So then they start kissing and pulling off each other's clothes, and he ends up, like, ripping Hex's shirt. I guess all the buttons off. And then Cole pauses and thinks of, like, Hex saying originally that, like, this is what he expected from Cole, for just to be, like, fast sex and using him, but how this is different, and he wants him so badly in this moment. And Cole says, like, I missed you too, and then they kiss and go fast. But then we just, like, jump scene. So Cole wakes up, and his room is basically trashed, and there are at least 2 more ghost decorations and 3 creepy spider decorations from Hex swearing in English and in Spanish. And he rolls over, and Hex is actually gone. So Cole just starts to panic, which is fair. But he, like, he grabs his phone, and Hex, like, texted him to say that he's in Iris's room for breakfast. So Cole just, like, runs to her room without, like, he has sweatpants on, but he doesn't even put a shirt on. And Hex is there in Cole's hoodie and boxers, which I'm like, is also not enough clothes. And Cole just, like, kisses him and says, you are gone, and then, like, pulls him into his lap, and he's like, what the fuck? But Hex is like, you needed sleep. And Cole's like, I needed you, which is cute. Cole apologizes to Iris for, like, the PDA, but she's like, it's fine, I'll get my shit figured out. And he's like, wait, what's going on? And then Kris shows up, and Kris looks like complete shit. And Cole's like, he wants to ask him what's up, but realizes, like, there has to be something happening between Kris and Iris, so, like, it's not the time to ask what's going on. And then Kris just gives Cole a wrapped gift and says you should give this to Hex. And he's like, so he's like, okay, I'll ignore what's happening. But he turns and he says to Hex that he didn't get Hex a gift, but here one is. And Hex is just like, I didn't get you one either. And then Cole says, like, he came back, so just put a bow on Hex, that's his gift.
Aww.
Which is cute, yeah. But Kris says, like, they don't actually get gifts for anyone. And we get in Cole's head that, like, the staff buy gifts for each of them, and then they do, like, a performative gift opening for, like, the cameras later. But it's, like...
weird. It's
so weird, yeah. And he's like, we'll change that. So, you know, he's making changes.
Of course he is.
All the time. Even though he slept all night last night, and his dad was presumably out Santaing. But he, somehow realizes that, like, Hex knows what's happening between the two of them, like Iris and Kris. I don't know, he can just tell. And then he gives Hex the gift that Kris gave him to give to Hex, and Hex, like, slowly is methodically opening it. They're like, no, tear it, it's recyclable. And I'm like, gift paper isn't recyclable where we live, so I don't know where. I guess in Christmas Town it would be. But it's a black long sleeve shirt with a stocking on it, and it says, I deserve coal in my stocking. Which is, you know, a good joke.
Read this, but it's still funny.
It is funny, yeah. And Hex is like, should I wear this today, or would that be too much? And I'm like, it's way too much. It is way too much. You cannot wear that around Santa. He will have a heart attack.
Please do not.
Yeah. So Kris then tells Cole that, like, they have meetings set up with the other holidays all day, and the heads of the, like, Christmas noble houses, and with King Neo, and the first one is with the holidays, and it's in an hour, and their dad's gonna be there. How? Who Santa'd?
Who told Santa?
But also, like, wouldn't Santa still be going?
And wouldn't he be sleepy?
Yeah. Wild. But anyway, he's gonna be there. So Cole asks Iris then how involved she wants to be in all of this. She says she hasn't spoken to her father yet, but she would like to, like, listen in on everything as their friend and also, like, as an Easter representative. So we're like, cool. She's going to be part of this. And Cole is like, okay, well, I guess I better go get ready. And Kris is like, Merry Christmas and shit, and just, like, runs out of the room. Because I guess he doesn't want to be in there with Iris by himself.
Awkward.
It is so awkward. And Cole asks Iris if she wants to talk about it, but she says later, preferably when he has clothes on. And he just, like, looks down at himself, and he has, like, a hickey on his chest and a hickey on his stomach. And we're like, yeah, it's not the time.
Also, like, yeah, dude, put some clothes on.
Yeah. And he's just like, I know it's my brother, but you can talk to me. And she's like, I'm going to throw this egg at you if you don't get out of here right now. And she just, like, swears that she's okay. So Hex and Cole leave, and Cole just, like, turns on him, and he's like, what's happening? And Hex is like, go talk to your brother. And he actually ends up just, like, texting Kris and is like, what's going on? And Kris is like, nothing. The kitchen just ran out of Nutella and I'm sad. And you're like, obviously it's not. But he's like, it's not important. We'll talk about it later.
Hate this.
And I'm like, I want to know.
Tell us.
Me. Yeah. So Cole asks Hex then if Kris told Iris he had feelings for her, and Hex just says possibly, but it isn't his secret to tell.
That. Maybe it's not, but also you have you're loyal to your boyfriend, like.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I tell my husband a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
Cone of silence.
So, exactly. So Hex tells him to go talk to Kris. And they kind of get steamy for a second. And Sex, like, calls Hex a sex monster. And Hex says that Cole's responsible for it. And, like, they kiss. And he says, like, Cole says after this, he's going to need to visit Halloween diplomatically. and he'll send his demands to Hex's people. And Hex just, like, calls him demanding, and it's super cute, and we're like, he's gonna visit Halloween, that's fun. Mm-hmm. And then Cole runs away, but yells back that his boyfriend is sexy, and Hex yells back to him that his boyfriend has no decency. And Cole is obviously going to talk to his brother, but we don't get any of that. But we get that, like, Cole is so happy that he doesn't have to hide it anymore. And he starts thinking of, like, what the headlines could be about him and Hex. And it's just, like, how in love he is with Hex. And it's just super cute. Mm. But, obviously, there's a few, like, cliffhanger-y things happening.
Yes.
But, yeah. That's the end of the book. That's where we end it. They're in love.
They are in love. And they want to be together forever.
Yeah. So how did you feel about the book?
Obviously I liked it. It was really cute. I will say that I wish that the conflict wasn't so easily resolved as just to be, hey. Yeah.
Resolved. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying to you, I think, last week. I don't know if it was on the podcast or not, but it really wraps up quickly and without a whole lot of issue.
And, like...
Which I guess is, like, what you get with a fluffy...
Yeah, it's the nature of, like, the Hallmark style romance book. But...
Yeah.
I just wish that, like... It seems like the problem was so complex. I wish that it had been resolved with something a little bit equally complex.
Yeah, I agree.
But in saying that, it was a cute little read, nice little holiday book. It was adorable.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. I thought it was cute, but yeah, like you said, like, you're in the last eighth of the book and everything just, like, wraps up super quick, no problems.
Yeah.
But there's still a few little things that I guess we're going to have to read in the next book. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's us for this week.
And for this year.
And this year. So yeah, if you want to get in touch with us and share your thoughts on anything you heard in our episodes, or if you have any book suggestions, please reach out to us by email at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com or on Instagram or Facebook at coffeeandcoread and coffee.coread on TikTok.
So next week, we're actually going to wrap up 2024 rating the books we read this year.
Woo-woo.
And then, starting the second week of January is when we'll start our new book. So, listen to our rating for this year to find out about what book we're starting 2025 with. Make sure to follow along. And if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get our content. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next page.